So now with this figure here, I want to start touching on something that I think is very, very important to being able to draw um, figures that look like they have a little bit of weight, uh, and to make your work inkable, really. And that's line weights. So I'm gonna get this figure drawn in, just sketched in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start to define some line weights. And the way that I do that is I figure out where my lighting is. And in this case, my lighting is going to be coming from the upper left. And then I'm going to start making my lines thicker away from the light. So as the line curves away from the line will get a little thicker. So I'm going in here right now and just giving my figure a nice flat line, no line weights. It's all defined with a woman's body, even a man's body. I mean, it's not really the way that I generally draw. I really like to over detail the muscles. It's the style that I like to work in, and it's a little more fun for me. But for the woman's body, you really want to stay away from that. So this is just about a finished body for a woman, but it's a little bit flat to the page, and the reason for that is there are just no line weights at all. And you can rely on an inker to do that, but there I'm drawing an arrow there just to define where my shadow's coming from. But I think you're going to get a better result, much more consistent result from inking if you understand where to put the line weights yourself. So what I'm doing is inside curves and connecting points. So where the line curves away from the light, I'm making it much thicker, and where I have a connecting point, I'm making sure that that line connects up properly, and then it gets a little bit thicker. So there, I've got a curve away from the light. There's a curve away from the light there. I'm making sure to define all my connections. And you'll find once you get comfortable with this, it becomes so second nature that you really don't need to think about it at all. It's a very, very easy thing. And if you look, you can see that this figure really looks lit. It looks like it has a light source, even without any shadowing, without any rendering. I mean, that's just a basic lined out figure, but I've just put some weights on those lines, not even all that heavy, and it looks like it actually has some weight on the page, and it gives it a bit of a visual believability. So what I'm doing here, I'm just going to draw a simple sphere, because I want to show that when you draw your line, you actually, if you put in the proper line weight away from the light, the way that I'm doing here, I'm making it much thicker away from the light, I can actually just break up the top of it, and your mind actually will complete that form. You really don't need to actually even draw that in, and that's a stylistic choice that you can make. It's potentially a troublesome one to use, because colorists can have a hard time working with that. It's much easier to color a comic book page when things are delineated, but you can sparingly, if you want something to look like it's overexposed, or like the top of a shiny object, you can just get rid of the line altogether, and it could be pretty effective. So now what I'm going to do is I want to draw a few hills, just to show how I use my connecting points and why they're so important. So here, generally speaking, you can see that the hill on the right is the one closest. The hill in the middle is the one in the middle ground, and the other one is in the background. And you can see that just because the connecting points show that one is in front of the other. But to really define that, what I'm doing is I'm putting line weights into onto the lines up to the connecting points, and that really shores them up even more. And then what I'm doing is making sure I'm breaking my line. I'm just making absolutely sure to break the line where there are no connecting points. And with that second one, you'll notice that I drew those lines without connecting them at first, and you saw how flat that was. It was impossible. There's really no definitive way that you could say one form is in front of the other, one hill is in front of the other hill. It's not possible. It just ends up looking like separate lines on the page. So um, I'm sorry, that was actually me. I'm uh, doing the dialogue for this actually at a later time, and um, while I was drawing that, I think I was talking. So I'm saying one thing and gesturing another in this.